Welcome to Politics Done Right on KPFT. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Give me a call at 713-526-5738. That is 713-526-KPFT. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you very much for giving me this 1 hour with you to discuss many things. Not only the Democratic Convention, but anything you have on your mind with respect to what's going to occur in this election. I want to discuss. I think I have some interesting points of view from things that I saw going forward. There was much that occurred at the convention. I tell you, there are two perspectives. What I kept on doing is calling back home to figure out if what I was seeing in Philly, seeing at the convention, seeing on the convention floors, seeing on the streets, if that is what actually got reflected in the media, the mainstream media, both on Fox News, MSNBC, CNN, and all these others. It turns out that I don't think there was much justice done in the coverage of the Democrats received. Yes, they did try to say nice and said that it came out to a certain extent the way they expected it to come out. But the reality is they were not really reflecting what I think was the entirety of the convention. Folks, before we get started, please do remember this is a call-in show. You can give us a call at 646-929-2495. Again, that number is 646. I have two different numbers. You know, this one is the one on this is Coffee Party. Rather, this is Politics Done Right on Coffee Party. I do the other one, Politics Done Right on KPFT, and sometimes I get all the numbers mixed up. So here you go. The call-in number to talk is 646-929-2495. Again, that number is 646-929-2495. I hope that several of you give me a call. We only make a difference if we make a difference. We only make a difference if we participate. We only make a difference if we do what is necessary to really be a part of our body politic. Anyhow, folks, before I get started, I don't know if I should do this now. I'll probably do it later. I wanted to play a part of Bill Maher's, what is it called? Real time. There's this thing that, the end where he ends with, where he ends. I don't remember the name of this kit that he gives, but it was an interesting one that he gave last night that I think is worth listening to. But anyhow, what are we going to cover? This week I attended the Democratic National Convention in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. It was a tired but exhilarating experience, sitting through those long hours next to both Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders supporters. Gives one's perspectives one cannot get, given the factional isolation we currently live through. Now, I have many thoughts about both the facade of the convention and the realities that await us all. The media packaged the coverage as a reality show. But then, what should we expect from that entity that is nothing but a tool to the plutocracy? What do we expect from these guys? We will discuss all these issues, and I hope you call. Again, that number is 646-929-2495. What are your thoughts? I'll also be following our hashtag Politics Done Right on Twitter. And of course, my Twitter, Egberto Willies. Give me a call, listen to the live stream, or listen to the vlogcast. We're also broadcasting on Facebook. So if you go to facebook.com / politics done right. You'll actually get to see the show, and also you can leave me some comments. New rule. Thank you, Pantheon. It's new rules. I didn't get a lot of sleep at the convention, and worse, because the convention was over pretty late on Thursday. When we got to the hotel, I had a choice to make after having some dinner with a whole lot of delegates from both Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders factions. But again, I was scared to go to bed, so I stayed up all night because I had an early flight out, and I wanted to make sure that I made it. And we were so tired. I think everybody was extremely tired, and everybody likely feared that they would miss their flight. So I stayed up north of 35 hours without sleep. So anyhow, the convention went pretty well. And I see that I have a caller. I'll be with you in a second. I just want to tell a little bit about my first experience with the convention and what actually occurred. I got in. The convention began, on Monday. That's the official start of the convention. I got in on Saturday because what we had is we had some actions that we wanted to do with Move to Amend and some other groups. There was a brand new Congress that had some actions in the park, getting people together. There was a forum. I don't remember the name of it, but it had to do with people taking over their own government. It was one of those. I think it was put on by the Political Revolution or one of these organizations. I got in too late to attend it, but I understand that it had north of 800 people who attended that particular function, which for people who are flying into Philly on their own dime, it is great. Anyhow, after sleeping, I should say sofa diving or whatever they call that thing, at somebody's house on Saturday. I had no hotel for Saturday night, so I stayed at somebody's house. One of our Move to Amend members, I stayed at their homes after spending some time with David Cobb and Daniel Lee and some other Move to Amend members. We got there. Sunday was actually one of the most eventful days outside of the convention. You had dozens, and what I mean, we had dozens of progressive groups that decided to amass in Philadelphia, and it turned out to be it turned out to be great. They had one of the largest processions I've ever seen, largest marches I've seen. And again, from what I've been told, the only thing that was probably more massive than what we had in Philly for that march of this type was the march that they had for, I think it was a climate march or something like that in New York City a few months ago, or I think about a year ago. But anyhow, we had the Planned Parenthood folks, we had the native people who took care of the native issues. We had folks that are dealing with the TPP issue. We had the reproductive services issues, and we had just about every single anti-war movement, the anti-GMO movement. We had all these guys amassed in one place and went on down for the march right through the middle of the city of Philadelphia. It was extraordinary. I have a whole lot of video of these things that I've started preparing these videos. I uploaded quite a bit of them to YouTube that you guys will have access to and be able to kind of get and feel some of the experiences that we had out there. That was probably a 2-mile march or a rally parade or something like that. We also had that same day, that march I think was probably maybe around noon or 1 o'clock, somewhere around there. After that, Bernie Sanders folks had a huge march that followed a different path through Philadelphia. And when I tell you that was a large march, that was, it was huge what we did. I got back from the previous march and rally pretty late. So by the time I got there, the Bernie Sanders march had already started. What is interesting is we were near the back of the march to begin with, and as far as the eyes could see, there were people upon people upon people upon people marching through. We had the Bernier bus folks, of course, had a pretty large contingent there as well, and We can go into the Bernie or bust a little later, something that I think folks should be a bit concerned about. But it turned out, it actually showed that the type of massive appeal that this guy continues to have. Following the march, we had a huge rally in the park where the march ended, where we had a whole lot of speakers, including David Cobb from Move to Amend and some others who were discussing different actions to really start the process of not only governing, but taking over Congress with progressive people. So all in all, it was what I consider a very successful convention. From what I understand, the way the media was covering it, and again, being locked up in there and not having great coverage, many of us, or most of us, couldn't get to see the coverage that was being shown on, let's say, CNN or these other news networks, as opposed to what we were seeing inside of the convention, as opposed to some of the ruckus that occurred. We saw it all, and we knew exactly what was going on. But again, folks, this is a call-in show. Please give us a call at 646-929-2495. I'll be honest, I don't have a blog of the week to read today. So that gives us probably an extra 5 to 7 minutes that we normally would not have had. I really didn't have the time. I finally had to go to bed last night after processing videos. It was just a tiring experience. But again, I hope you give me a call, 646-929-2495. Do remember that we're easy to talk to here. And whether you're for Hillary, whether you're for Trump, whether you're for Bernie, whether you're for Bernie or bust, I really don't care who you're for or what you want to talk about. What we like to do here is have a good conversation where many times we change minds and many times some of our minds are changed as well. So without further ado, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the phones and give us a call, 646-929-2495. And if you want to, you have some comments, you can also leave some comments right under, if you're watching the show on Politics Done Right on Facebook, you can actually leave a comment there and we will oblige. But anyhow, I think this is my friend in San Antonio. How are you doing? Is this John?
Yes, it is. Good afternoon, but
John, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. Good. It looked like a pretty good convention, especially the first night with Bernie and Elizabeth Warren and Michelle Obama and even Cory Booker's speech. I thought was good.
It was great.
That was
yes.
a phenomenal night. The other 3 nights they were, good. It's just nice to put in, typical kind of democratic ideas. I don't think they pushed enough democratic issues. A lot of it was trying to make people aware of how dangerous Trump is, and I can understand that.
Right.
So anyway, it sounds pretty good. Like on Sunday, it sounds good. I want to hear a little bit about the issues y'all were actually protesting on Sunday.
The main issue we were protesting on Sunday was the TPP. In other words, we specifically want to make sure, because supposedly Hillary is now out, no longer supports the TPP. And in as much as she picked Tim Kaine, who the week before showed very strong support for TPP and has now said he no longer supports it. Well, you know how they change their minds. That was one of the major issues. The TPP was the major issue. Of course, there was some GMO folks that were there. There was some anti-war folks that were there as well. And when they went up to the podiums to speak after the march, that was pretty darn evident. I think the main focus of that convention, however, if you take a look at most of the signs that you saw there, it was really coalescing around, we do not want the Trans-Pacific Partnership because it will cost us likely worse than NAFTA did.
Right, and that's really an important issue.
Right.
I spoke with Sam Cedar yesterday, who was also at the convention, in press row.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with his assessment that of course, I just want to reiterate, that I'm a huge Bernie
Sanders supporter.
And he's also been the best politician in my lifetime that I agree with, and it's great to see his movement, have so much strength. But what Mr. Cedar was saying is that, and I do agree with him, that there was a lot of complaints about process, that I really don't agree with, and I wish that they would be sticking to issues more than they are. Of course, since you were there and you were on the ground, I mean, you get that unique perspective,
right?
As a
delegate,
watcher, and as somebody who really wants to see tremendous change. And so it's great to hear that perspective. But, I mean, did you feel that way? I mean, obviously, we've had many conversations about the Bernie or Bust movement, and I think we're in pretty strong agreement. I think I'm probably even more vehement than you are about it. But how did that go? I mean, did you speak to a lot of people? Did they seem receptive?
I spoke to a lot of people. I also spoke to a lot of Bernie or Bust people. And look, I know, first of all, I know the guy who started Bernie or Bust. And I also interviewed, I think you're probably on my KPFT show the day that I interviewed the guy from Bernie or Bust, if I'm not mistaken. And 832, I'm coming to you after I speak with John a bit more, but I see you're waiting online. And folks, I'd like to get more calls, 646-929-2495. Again, that number is 646-929-2495. Now, look, the Bernie or Bust people, I understand, and like you said, both of us are in complete disagreement with the Bernie or Bust movement. Absolutely, I will not support the movement. I really understand from the heart where they're coming from. It is sort of a I simply can't have this person. Many of them simply don't feel like Hillary represents them. What I try to get across to many of the folks that I spoke to with regards to Bernie or Bust, or even the Bernie folks that say they're going to go to vote for the Green Party with Jill Stein, or with the Libertarian Party with, what's his name? You know who I'm talking about. In as much as Jerry Johnson, in as much of some of the people were saying that, what I tried to get across to them is, look, I would be with you with Jill Stein. I would be with you with not Johnson, in as much as he's a liberal on social issues, not with him. But I would be with the Jill Stein because her values are more in line with mine. However, we have to be practical. Is it possible for Jill Stein to win the election? That would require a massive amount of work for us to do in 100 days to convince folk that a true liberal can win in November. That's next to impossible. Likewise with Johnson, it is impossible. So therefore, if we want to be practical, the only option that I think we have is to say we will support Hillary Clinton. We will, as a group, the Bernie Sanders group, those and those of us who support a true progressive America, which, believe it or not, is most Americans when articulated in a manner that touches people's hearts. Only if we then keep our fight on, if you will, if we keep our fight on, we will ensure that Hillary Clinton, as president, in as much as she's a plutocratic representation, will actually be forced to do what the masses want. Because one, she will want a second term. And two, it is virtually impossible, as the Tea Party has shown, to really go against these guys overtly when it comes to policy. And that is the reason why we have no policy today. So I've been speaking to a whole lot of the Bernie folks. I've been very respectful. I'm a Bernie person as well. I've been very respectful. I've been cognizant of what we as Bernie supporters have gone through. I understand all the malfeasance that have occurred. I understand that. But we live in a real world. And you don't win, you won't win every single battle, but you sure as hell can win the war. And I'm in this not to feel good about sticking it to Hillary. The truth of the matter is neither Hillary Clinton nor Bernie Sanders care about any of us on an individual basis. So a lot of times, our love for these candidates are really unwarranted. Look, I like Bernie. I shook Bernie's hand. Folks, Bernie Sanders, and it surprised me to note this. Bernie Sanders came and gave a very good speech to the Texas delegation. He came to our hotel and our breakfast and gave a very good speech. I don't know, of the 50 states, a state that he lost badly. Why did Bernie Sanders come to the Texas delegation? I don't know. But he came. He shook many of our hands. I even got a handshake from Bernie Sanders. But I tell you what, he's adamant in his support he's strong in his support for Hillary, not because Hillary has 100% of the things that he stood for, that he stands for, but because he's being pragmatic. And he knows that Texas is one of the strong Bernie Sanders, the core of the Bernie Sanders support in Texas is huge. And he knows that if you can get to a lot of these folks in Texas, you're likely going to be able to get to a lot throughout the country. Let me ask you, John, to hold a second, and I'm going to keep you hot. And let me bring in 832. 832, come on in. How can I be of assistance to you now? 832.
Hey, man, this is Don from KCFT.
Hey, Don, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing real good, man.
Talk to me.
So, a lot of people, I understand the Bernie or bust thing, but the biggest thing that people have to understand and notice is that Hillary's platform has changed so much because of Bernie's power that he stayed in. Bernie is still in it to win it.
Yes.
And it may not be to win the presidency, but it is to win those things that he's been fighting for. And that's one of those things that a lot of people who are Bernie or bust, you got to really see that Bernie has changed a lot of what Hillary in the beginning was trying to do.
Right.
And now Hillary is going for those Bernie supporters because she knows that those Bernie supporters is what she needs to win the presidency.
Look, Don, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And I think a lot of people are seeing that. And again, one of the things that I think we have to do when we're talking to our fellow Berniacs, our brothers and sisters in the Berniac coalition, is to let them know that it's not a betrayal. Right up front, and yeah. I've been writing at Daily Kos a whole lot in support of Bernie. I've taken knives like you'd not imagine in the back because of some of the things that I've said. But the thing about it is, I always knew in the back of my head that if Hillary displayed a flexibility to at least give the semblance that she is going to be supporting the middle class and poor-centric policies. In other words, look how far she has moved with the student loan issue. Look how far she has moved with a lot of these issues in her utterances. Now remember, those are just utterances and these are just the platform. The platform generally has no power. But a platform with a platform that is backed by a movement can have staying power, and that's what I believe in. So and thanks for listening, Marianne Richards Castiglia and Julie Amos Amherst. You're absolutely correct on what you're saying there. Perhaps, and this is what Julie said. Julie said, perhaps if third parties did something before 4 months before elections, maybe they might be taken more seriously. Look, she is right about that. And that is, look, I love the tenets of the Green Party. I really do. I mean, in fact, the Green Party, as I see it, is the soul of the Democratic Party. The soul of what the Democratic Party should have been. That's the Green Party. So, I mean, she's absolutely right about that. Now, Marianne says that she needs to convince her friends, because it is going to be a hard sell. But personally, the first thing I do when I'm talking to my fellow Berniacs is to listen, because these people have been expressing themselves and trying to express themselves as best they could for the last several months. Those of us who made a transition, a willing transition, need to listen to where they are at, to be able to address where they're at and give the options as far as what we are going to do together if and when they make that switch. And that's what I think it's important. But I think in order for us to move forward, that switch, in my humble opinion, has to be made. And what I ask all the Bernie folks, right, is one, lay out your plan. Lay out your plan for Bernie or bust, and where do we go the day after the election, assuming Trump becomes president. And the one staying power that Trump will have, is that Supreme Court appointment. That Supreme Court appointment is a stay. And for those who cannot see that, it is incumbent on us not to criticize them, not to call them dumb, not to tell them they're silly, but to realize as humans, we have to get to their hearts. We have to get to their hearts. We have to get them to see that woman that has a pre-existing condition, a healthcare issue, that assuming Trump is in office, it is also true that we'll have a Republican Congress. It is also true that we'll have a Republican Senate. It is also true that the true changes that they want to make in healthcare, in as much of it is going to be difficult to change, they will make changes, and these changes by definition will affect many of your fellows, a large percentage of Americans, those with pre-existing conditions. It will happen because you know what? Enough people are not hurting in any given period of time to make a difference when it comes to healthcare and these other issues. So it's important that we take this into consideration, and it's important that we learn how to speak to the other Berniacs that haven't made the transition to say, I am going to vote in the interest of not only myself, but I'm going to vote in the interest of my neighbor, my family member. That is what it's all about. Look, I'll be frank. Immediately speaking, I can probably survive a Bernie win. Okay, I can probably you can probably survive a Bernie win, and a lot of the Bernie or bust people are in two camps. They can survive a Bernie win. They can survive a Trump win, or they have nothing to lose. And those are the two things those are the two people that can withstand a Trump win. But what I tell them is not only think about yourself in this instant, think about those others. I see you, Robert. I'm going to bring up your subject, Robert, in a little bit, but let me get back to it. You want to say something else, Dan?
Yeah, real quick. During the convention, she mentioned that Trump said, I alone can fix it.
Right.
And the problem is, what I like is that she said that, no, it's everybody. But the only problem I have with her is that messaging of I'm with her, that is technically the exact same thing. I'm with her is saying the same thing that Donald Trump is saying. She has to reorganize that message so it's all inclusive once again.
It's interesting.
That's the one thing that that is hurting her. And even during the convention, the glass ceiling breaking and everything, that it looked great, but at the same time, it seems too self-aggrandizing.
Yeah,
and that's one of those things that you have to be careful for. Is that every time it's I'm with her, and every person during the Democratic convention, that was the sole purpose is I'm with her because if you're not with her, then you're with Trump. We have to actually say the reasons why we are with her.
Yeah.
The reasons why we should vote for her, not just she's not Trump. And that's one of those things that it seems like that is what they've been going towards, and hopefully they don't continue that towards November, because if they continue that towards November, then they lose, because you're not firing up your base just by saying, it's either Trump or me.
Right.
That's not the way to fire up your base.
I think you're absolutely, from just a literal point of view, I think you're right. The glass ceiling thing didn't bother me, as she being the person who's shattering the glass ceiling, because I'll be frank, I think it's only someone like Hillary Clinton and maybe Elizabeth Warren that would have had that much more over most of the men running to have been able to do that. Because in my opinion, I still think we live in a misogynistic society. I think a lot of the crap that, look, and this is coming from somebody that's not a Hillary supporter, I think Hillary has taken much too much crap. I'll be honest. Much of what she's taken is because she's a woman and because we're in a paternalistic society that have very little regards for the prowess of women and for how powerful women really are. They're just as powerful as men. And it didn't start recently. It didn't start with the ERA. It didn't start with any of that. Women have been doing things behind the scenes all along. They just haven't been getting credit for it. So let's be frank. Roosevelt, not Teddy, but the other one. FDR. One of FDR's biggest supporters, came from his own wife. She was one of the people that was there at his side. Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton was on his side, and don't think it really wasn't a co-presidency then, and don't think it won't be a co-presidency again. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? For me, I really don't care at this point, because as John has said, Hillary is going there to be the president, but our movement is going there to ensure that the policies we want are effected. Now, Robert has something interesting to say, and I think it's actually prescient. Robert L. Mark said, third-party voters ignoring the SCOTUS have straight privilege, health privilege, male privilege, and white privilege. Let me tell you something, Robert. It seems like we are on the same wavelength, because I tell you something. I am writing a post for Daily Kos. I wanted to have it done for my Sunday front page. Turns out this week I won't have a front page article on Daily Kos. But the reason it was going to have a statement similar to that, and that's why I say we must be of like mind. I guess that's why we're both at KPFT, including Don as well, and a good KPFT listener on board as well that we have with John. So listen, he's right. There's a certain amount of male privilege when we talk about not just Bernie or bust. There's a certain amount, this one, in as much as I wasn't going to use the white privilege portion about this, because this one is not, in my opinion, a straight shot at that. Except that if we get a judge in there that will not support the voter rights amendment, the VRA. That's the only thing that where I think kind of white privilege would come in, whereas we say, hey, as a white person, most people don't ever, when they walk into a voting booth, it is assumed that their papers are right and they get breaks when they vote. But if you're Latino, you're looked at closely for the vote. If you're black, most of the time it's not a problem. However, how they get you is the way they set up machines, how they make sure the lines are longer, how these other issues. So I probably wouldn't have really stressed the white privilege issue as much, but I probably would have still left it in there. Folks, give me a call. We have John and Don online here. I'd love to hear more voices. I'm having some voices in the thread as well. Give me a call, 646-929-2495. Again, that number is, I'll say it slower. They tell me I speak fast sometimes. 646-929-2495. According to Mark, Supreme Court is protector of women, racial minorities, ethnic minorities, and healthcare. And there is a reason why that is a fact. And it's a fact because most issues are democratic issues, meaning the more the more votes you have, or if you have more votes, you win. The Supreme Court has to be the one that protects the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights are not subject to numbers. The Bill of Rights are not subject to the feebleness at times of the majority. John, do you want to add anything before we move on to subject?
Yeah, I want to talk about a couple of things that Bernie said, later in the week. And, he was addressing all of the different congregations, to try to get them to try to understand his feelings. Mm-hmm. And, he addressed Wisconsin, and you're right, I mean, most of the states that he won. But, I mean, it's great that he also addressed the Texas delegation.
Right.
The things that he talked about that really I felt real strongly about is that, I don't have any kids, but, I think this is a really effective push for voting for Clinton, is that, if you can look at your kids in the eye and say, I didn't do anything to stop Donald Trump from becoming president.
Right.
And have that in the back of your mind. I think that's a very effective statement. Also, talking about, elections. When he said elections will come and elections will go. And I just feel very strongly about that because, it's, to me, like I have a lot of my buddies, and they, I kind of hook them in, and we talk about, well, did you read this blog, and did you read this and that, and and then the election, once it's over, they're like, yeah, I gotta kind of pull back a little bit, I gotta get back with my family, and and I understand that, but for me, nothing ends. The day after the election, you start looking at the next election.
Right.
And the issues continue. Single payer to me is the biggest issue in the country. And, TPP is extremely important also. But, all the issues that Bernie brought up, student debt. And Clinton has come a long way. I was really pretty shocked that she actually put that into the platform.
Right.
And so I just thought those two things were really effective. And this is something that is continuous. You always want to push for your ideas. 365. 24/7. And we're, it's great what you were talking about, the brand new Congress. I'm really interested in that. So it's just great to see the movement going on. I am concerned though, because even with Bernie, he's not a Democrat anymore. He went back to being an independent. And when I hear about all the people who are actually trying to run for office, let's say as a city council person or even a state representative, state senator, I just feel that, if you're going through the Green Party or you're going through as an independent, how is drastic change going to happen? And it seems like you're going to take this, to a period to where this could happen maybe in 20 years, maybe in 30 years. And we have an extreme Republican Party. I'm glad eventually you said that you were saying we'll survive. And I think you're right. Most of us will survive. But, how negative will it be? And I just think that Trump will be extremely negative. I just, what you said earlier, he probably will have... if he wins, he's probably going to have the House and the Senate also.
Right, definitely.
So, you just think about all the things that he's going to happen. Mike Pence was saying, Roe versus Wade is going to be out the window. 20 million people will be kicked off health care. Look at the social safety net. That will be eviscerated. It's all in the Republican platform. LGBT rights will be eviscerated. It'll just be a disaster for this country. And
there's one.
I'm kind of in that.
I want to stop you for 1 second, because right now you're gloom and doom to folks, because I think it's warranted. I think those things are true. What we haven't made as a case yet. Here's the problem with our politics, right? Every time we have an issue, we make it a doom or gloom thing. And then it's not, many times we don't get the materialization of that gloom and doom. So what we have to do is explain to folks not only how bad it's going to be, but in a form that they can understand how bad it's going to be. So I don't usually tell folks necessarily that, oh, 20 million people are going to lose their insurance. I tell folks that all the constituencies that depends on the policies that the Republicans are going to want to get rid of, or at least to diminish, affects folks that's not a part of their constituency. And the reason I say that is this: a lot of people say, "Oh, that's doom and gloom," but they'll never do that. They don't want to. They don't want to do things that's going to hurt their people. Well, here's a problem. The vast majority of the people who get these policies, right, are not Republicans. What I mean by that, and let me take Kentucky and a few places out of that. And this is what's important here. Let's take a look at healthcare. The red states, most of them did not take the Medicaid expansion to Obamacare, and in doing so, these people don't have anything to lose in those states, right? Because they never got it, and they were still winning those states. So they are used to hurting their people and winning, so they don't have to worry about that. The people in Kentucky that are benefiting from Obamacare, the Medicaid expansion, yes, it's a large percentage of Republicans, but guess what? Those are the same people who vote against their interests continuously. So there's not a problem there. So the Republicans who did not accept the Medicaid expansion for Obamacare didn't really do it necessarily to kill people, but that is what occurred. But they did it to ensure that people didn't fall in love with these issues that then would have caused it to be an issue in an election. And that is a smart move. That is a very smart move what they're doing. So what we have to articulate to the average American citizen is simple. Look, the people that are going to get hurt by Republican policies are not Republicans in general, because they have already been hurt. They have been used to living with the hurt. It's others that we have to take into account. Now, we are the majority, and I'm saying we now in as much as I'm on a radio show and shouldn't be taking sides, but I think it is time now for us to be very, very honest with our listeners, very, very honest with those out there. It is a clear and present danger. Trump is a clear and present danger, and as such, we have to treat it that way. And we have to get to people's minds, not by telling them they're fools. Look, I looked at a family member's Facebook page, and I was extremely disappointed because here we had on her page some black folks showing why they support Donald Trump. A very uninformed person. I could do one of two things. I could just say, oh, this guy's a fool, is an idiot, is a dumb guy. Or I could try to understand what he's saying. And you see, the Republicans have always been good in catering a message that hits here, the heart. I mean, it makes the black person who bucks the system and goes with the Republican side of the aisle feel like, oh, I'm bucking the system. I'm really an independent guy, not dependent on race and all that sort of thing. There's a certain group of folk that falls for. For that woman who will ignore that Hillary is going to break a ceiling, that Hillary is going to be the first woman as president, that there's a lot of misogyny going against her. That person is able to articulate within themselves that, look, even though I'm a woman, I'm so objective that I can vote for somebody like Donald Trump. The psychology of the psychology of the manner in which the Republicans promote their message is great. And it is something liberals, progressives, and by the way, one of my Berniacs, a young Berniac, young lady, taught me the difference between a liberal and progressive, and we should be calling it progressive but I'll go to, that's another show. But the difference between progressives right now is we are too analytic, we're too technical, we're too, a lot of times when they say we're too elitist, they're correct. We have to start getting to the heart and the soul of people. and my mother is listening and she says I'm making sense. If my mother tells me I'm making sense, then I must be making sense. You know? Okay. You want to add anything to that, Don?
Yeah, I want to piggyback off something both of you guys said.
Yes, sir.
I'm from Port Arthur, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And in Port Arthur, Texas, that's where Keystone XL pipeline was going to end. That was going to be the ending point for Keystone XL pipeline.
Right.
But the people stood up against the Keystone XL pipeline, even though, of course, we supported Obama in a lot of things. But in the Keystone XL pipeline, the people actually came up and said, no, we don't want that.
Right.
And we got something accomplished. So it's
Right.
one of those things of, regardless of who we get in office, if we get Hillary Clinton in office, if it's something that we really disagree with, we have to stand up and tell them, and we have to have the movement constant. And that's the biggest thing, because I'm so glad that Keystone XL pipeline did not go to my hometown.
Right.
Because that right now my hometown, I'm working with my hometown to try to get it fixed because of so much cancer going on because of the refineries.
Right. Oh,
So
yeah, Cancer
that's-
Alley right there in
that's-
Baytown. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's one of those things that you gotta fight, and if just one thing that people don't think about is if it's just one person, am I being heard? No, you're being heard because it's not just you. But if you say something about it, then and you have those conversations, then you start a movement and you get stuff done.
You're absolutely right. Now, Amos, Julius says, I wonder how the birth of FB, of Facebook, and in particular the FB meme have accelerated the extreme right's view. Where as before you had to be a fall news watcher or Limbaugh listener. That is a very important point that she brings up here, and something why at Coffee Party USA we've instituted Be the Media campaign. And when I talk about the Be the Media campaign, meaning that we are the majority. Progressives are the majority. Even some Republicans, not some, even most Republicans that profess to be conservatives, you ask them policy issues, and except for social issues, they are progressive. But we have to find a way to speak to them. But Julie is absolutely correct. And let me qualify what Julie is saying here. We have easy access to hate. We have easy access to memes that actually promote lies. But you know what? It's not only the right that has access to that. The left, the center, all of us have access to it. It's just that they've been more efficient and have been better at doing it. You know why? Because there's a certain integrity within the progressive movement, which means we don't want to blow things out of proportions. We don't want to lie when we put these things out, and they're willing to do so. What I think we need to do as a movement, however, what I think we have to do as a movement is counter these allegations and these actions on the right. In other words, we don't have to promote ourselves with outlandish statements that don't pass the smell test. But every single time you find a lie on Facebook, on Twitter, or any one of these guys, yes, you're correct, Julie. Snopes has been the best tool for these, but we can be the tools as well. Snopes can only cover so much because Snopes is one entity. What we have to do is all of us be the media, be the objective reviewer of everything on Facebook. But most importantly, I'm going to tell you something that very few people realize. We have to make sure that the internet remains open. I know I don't want to change the subject of the discussion today. What I do need to let folks know is we must keep the internet wide open. In other words, net neutrality is a must. Net neutrality is a must. Nobody's talking about this under a Trump presidency, but I guarantee you that under a Trump presidency, when the appointments are made to the FCC, that we will lose net neutrality. Folks, I don't have time to explain what net neutrality is right now. Go to my website, egbertowillies.com, and do a scan on net neutrality. I've written several items on that, and I have several links that will take you to other places where you can get information on net neutrality. Right now, the average American citizen, myself, can become the media. We can actually tell you truths, we can counteract lies, we can counteract all these other issues. There's not a problem. However, if this dies, if I am required, this is fairly inexpensive for me to reach several thousand people a week. Well, to put it bluntly, through the different entities that we participate in here at Willie's Media LLC, we reach over 500,000 folks a week. So it's quite a bit of folk. We can do this, what we say, on the cheap. Okay? We can do this on the cheap because of the open process that the internet is right now. Do remember, however, that the internet is controlled by the corporations just like other entity. A government's responsibility is to regulate private entities like the companies that the pipes run through, that the internet run through. Because we own the pipe. We own the ability to disseminate information. We are a society that does that. It is incumbent on us to ensure that no corporation gets to hold us hostage. Meaning that if I want to broadcast over a medium like this, that it costs me more money than I can afford, more money than any other person can afford. Because that is the way you cripple movements. We have to add that to the dossier of the items that will go under a Trump administration. It is a must that we lay that out. For all those people that are on the internet being responsive to these types of programs, these things are dead or likely dead under Trump. And it can be done in one of two ways, right? One is they can give a carrot to corporations. Hey, you can make more money, charge for people who are using more bandwidth, and that makes a ton of money. And the other way they can do it is exactly what Bush did with the Patriot Act. And that is to find a way for somebody speaking like me against the plutocracy to be a clear and present danger to the nation, to shut you down or lock you up. People think that only happens in Central America. People think that only happens in South America, South Africa, or these other places. The reality is America is becoming a fascist state more so, and it didn't begin with Donald Trump. We have been becoming a fascist state from 9/11 and before. Today I posted on Coffee Party USA the Powell Manifesto, an article I wrote about the Powell Manifesto.
It's under construction to going to Houston. What was stopped was this thing from Hardesty, Canada, going to Steel City, Kansas. That was the area that was stopped. The other one was pushed under the Bush administration, which goes through Regina, Saskatchewan, and goes to Steel City and goes to Illinois, to Paducah, Illinois. The other one was also, they went from Steel City to Cushing and Cushing to Nederland, and it's under construction going to Houston. So that is going to happen. It's just one area that was stopped.
Stand up and do something about it. And that's the one thing, like I was saying, this movement has to stand up and go against Keystone XL pipeline. The parts that have changed, we have to continue that change. That's what I was saying. And also on the fascism part, yeah, they have slipped in parts of fascism. Yeah, we're not full fascists, but the thing is, behind the scenes, they do tape our conversations. They are taping our actual phone conversations. They have a lot of, because I've worked for Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile, and I know exactly what happens behind the scenes. They do record your calls, and that is a government thing, because after 9/11, under fear, what happened is Bush was able to pass the Patriot Act and pass through so much. That's why we saw all those things from Snowden that I already knew before Snowden even released them. So,
I agree.
So it is pushing towards it. Yeah, we might not become a full fascist state, but the thing is every little small step that we take towards it, that's what we have to recognize, and that's what we have to fight back against.
And let me get in. getting quickly, and as you can see with our show, and John can tell you, we don't depend on folks necessarily agreeing or whatever. I feel and I understand what John is saying, that there are a lot of freedoms in America that remain and so forth. But the one thing that I don't want, and when I don't think I said we are a fascist state. I said we are becoming a fascist state, and I believe that all of the I think if you take a look at our policies, the policies that we have corporations pushing for, are in effect laying the groundworks for. I mean, they are not, no fascist state call themselves a fascist state. It's just the actions within the state that makes it a fascist state. And that's where I'm going, John. So I disagree with you that that we're not on a path to do that. I actually think we are. And not only that I think we are, I think because of the way our economy runs, I think it's a must. I think we have for the plutocracy to maintain itself. I do believe that we would have to become a fascist state, because people are not going to take. They're not going to take this type of economy. They're not going to take this type of treatment. They're not going to take all of this unless we have strong men, strong women, or a strong entity that simply controls. What we have now is unsustainable. But we can actually agree to disagree, and we only have like 2 minutes left in the show. And sorry that we had a little crash at the end of the show, folks. I'll try to fix some of this up when I fix the blog up. So let me ask Don, give me about a 30-second closer before we get this show done. That's you, Don.
You said
90 seconds.
Yeah, you got 15 seconds.
Okay, that's great. Just keep the movement going. No matter what, if you believe in something, make sure that you get together with people and move and do something. Don't just sit back and just talk about it. Do something.
Thank you very much, Don. John, give me a closer, my friend. 15 seconds.
All right. First of all, I want to recommend an article to you. It says, "To win, Hillary should be like Bernie. New poll suggests." It's in the Huffington Post by an author by the name of Daniel Moran. Dropped on the 28th of July.
Thank you.
And it talks about some of the things that you did before, wrote articles. So I definitely recommend it to you.
Excellent. Look,
Good job, Egberto.
Thank you very much, John. And folks, for all of you that gave me this hour for this program, I appreciate you. Please spread the word, share the links for the program, whether it's the video or the links for the program itself, because the only way we are going to be able to do this is not going to be through the mainstream media. We have to do it on our own. We have no excuses. We have the means to do it now. Let's not allow these means to go away and then complain when it is all gone. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. I do appreciate you having spent this hour with me. You have a wonderful day. Adios. Thank you very much for listening to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. You can personally reach me by sending an email to egberto@politicsdoneright.com. Remember, Egberto is spelled E-G-B-E-R-T-O. Change starts with you. 90.1 KPFT gives you information not tainted by corporate interest. Please visit kpft.org and contribute. Let's ensure continued access to real information and news remain available to all. Again, thank you very much for listening to Politics Done Right.